Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to another episode of We of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we'll discuss playing a Goliath gang in the new Hive Secundus Campaign Setting for Games Workshop's Necromunda. We'll discuss the unique challenges of playing the Underhells Campaign, the challenges faced by players in the Underhells, the benefits of Underhells Allegiances, provide two starting rosters, as well as give insight on campaign development for your Goliath gang. Now, because the video will be a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about exactly what kind of different issues you'll face when going directly into the Underhells. So the Underhells campaign actually presents itself a couple of unique situations and challenges that you'll face as a player playing in your games of Necromunda. Now, for those of us who are used to playing in the Underhive or playing out in the Ash Wastes, there's a couple of things that we're used to seeing, things like visibility conditions being a prevalent theme amongst both those campaign settings, and the exact same thing applies to the Underhells campaign as well. In fact, as you descend deeper into the depths of the Hive Secundus with the three different phases of the games, the visibility conditions actually change. For the very opening phase of the campaign, you have 18-inch visibility, drops it down all the way down to 12 inches, and I believe all the way down to 9 inches at the very end of it. So because of that, visibility will be a constant challenge for most gangs, and so you'll have to figure out some ways to kind of mitigate that. At the same time, another huge challenge you'll face as a member playing in the Underhells campaign is you got to worry about trading as well as recruitment challenges. During the phases, it's actually very difficult for you to actually recruit fighters. Some conditions you can't recruit any fighters at all. Also, trading becomes really difficult, as well as rarity values skyrocket during these portions of the campaign. So it kind of forces you to actually resupply and recruit your replacements when you get into the down phases between each of the phases of the campaign. So you do have to worry about that. At the same time, insanity conditions are also going to be prevalent in the setting of the Underhells campaign as well, which can cause all kinds of problems for gangs, especially if you have a weak willpower or cool stats for your gang, so that's something you do have to worry about as well. And lastly, of course, regardless of which side you play on, whether you're a Malstrain Allegiance or an Archeo-Hunter, you do have to worry about roaming horrors, which are basically NPCs that kind of roam the battlefield as you play and who will also attack you, so you also worry about that as well, aside from your normal opponent. So like I said before, there's a lot of unique challenges for players specifically when they engage in the Underhells campaign. One of them, of course, being visibility. Now, there's some ways to get around the visibility rules conditions. You could do things like get photo goggles or infrasights, for example. Flares are actually a really cost-effective way to actually solve this problem. Flares are kind of like hand grenades, but instead of actually going off in explosions, what they do is they illuminate zones of the battlefield for you, so that way you can, target your opponents using visibility conditions. So flares are kind of a nice little stopgap if you need to get those as well. And like I said before, willpower is going to be more important than ever before. And the reason why is because a lot of the insanity tests that are involved in the Underhells campaign requires you to take an willpower test. So if your gang really struggles with willpower, kind of like House Goliath does, it's going to be really difficult for you to kind of survive. And the reason why is because insanity conditions are pretty much plague most players as they go throughout the different phases of the Underhells campaign. And like I said before, having trade and recruitment is going to be a potential problem for you going into the campaign as well. So you got to equip your gangs accordingly. The fact that, the equipment that you purchase them now, they might not be able to re-access or get different types of equipment later on in the future. So you do have to worry about that and kind of plan your gangs out accordingly. Now, when you play in the Underhells campaign, you have one of two options you can choose for your allegiance. The allegiance is divided between the Archeo-Hunters as well as the Malstrain. So depending upon what allegiance you take, it does have a direct impact on the game. For example, if you're an Archeo-Hunter, you automatically get access to the Abyssal Ferryman team to help kind of travel you from the Dust Wall directly to Hive Secundus, and actually help you out kind of a little bit when you get directly into that into the Underhive of that Hive city. So you do have access to that, and that kind of replaces the old allegiance alliance system that used to be around for both the Ash Wastes as well as for Hive Primus. Now, if you're not an Archeo-Hunter, you're a Malstrain instead, you actually get 400 credits to actually purchase weapons, war gear, and mounted fighters for your gang as well. So that is kind of like the trade-off between those two. Now, when it comes to the madness rules that are associated for the different phases of the campaign, this is going to be the most significant because for Archeo-Hunters, it's actually a huge problem because they have to worry about passing willpower tests and cool tests in order to make sure they avoid the insanity conditions. For Malstrain Allegiance gangs, this is not much of a problem really. It's more like a +1 or a -1 to nerf tests really, and you don't really get to worry about falling prey to the psychology conditions factions that are being affected, so that's one nice thing about being a Malstrain allegiance as well. Now, regardless of which side you choose, whether you're Archeo-Hunters or Malstrain, both groups will suffer a lot when it comes to different restrictions on both trade as well as recruitment for your gangs. So you do have to plan that accordingly. It's pretty much almost impossible for you to recruit anybody during the phases of the campaign. It's what you usually do the down phase between the different phases of the campaign in order to recruit people. Same thing with purchasing weapons and equipment, because rarity values skyrocket for both sides depending on which part of the campaign you're in. So you do have to worry about that. Now, that being said, let's talk about specifically how House Goliath would fare in the Hive Secundus setting. Now, they're actually pretty good considering the situation they're facing, because a lot of the visibility conditions are going to play a huge role in the actual way that you do battle on the battlefields of Hive Secundus. So in this situation, in that sense, Goliaths are perfect for this. They have very high strength, very high toughness. They also have access to very powerful close quarters to medium range combat, so they're going to be quite well with the type of weapons and equipment they can take in order to fight in the CQB or the close quarters battle conditions that you're going to find in the Underhells campaign. So that part is nice. They're very strong and also very survivable. However, there also are going to be some downsides to playing House Goliath gang in Hive Secundus specifically. First of all, your gang is very pricey in terms of point values as well as the point values for their equipment, so it's going to be very difficult for you to get any large numbers in your gang because of that reason. The Underhells campaign sets the cap at 1,000 credits, so it's going to be really take a hindrance on what you can actually take with you, and Goliath guys are usually outnumbered anyways because their fighters are actually pretty good, so that's the reason why they cost so much in terms of physical stats anyways. Another issue you're really going to face too as a Goliath player is willpower. As I mentioned before, there is madness conditions taking place on various levels in the game. Now, usually you have to pass a cool test usually in order to avoid having to suffer from the madness effects. And in that case, as a Goliath gang, you have some really reliable cool test stats, so you're going to be pretty good that way. The problem you face though is that in case you accidentally fail a cool test, or worst case scenario, you have to take a willpower test, which a lot of these madness tests also require, your willpower stat as a Goliath player is actually not very good. I believe like the lowest willpower test is a 7+, and everybody else is 8+ or higher. So it's going to be really hard for you to pass those willpower tests, which means your guys might fall victim to insanity, in which case they might be jumping off of levels of buildings, or throwing themselves into environmental hazards, or shooting their own friends because of those insanity rules. So that's something you do have to worry about as well. And as always, because you are a Goliath gang, you're always pretty much going to be always outnumbered. Alright, unless you're fighting against Ironhead Squad prospectors, more often than that, you're going to be the one who's outnumbered in most cases. So because they do have to worry about that. At the same time, you do have to worry about gas and toxin trait weapons. Now, it's not as difficult for you to fail your toxin and gas traits as other gangs because you're pretty high strength, high toughness as well. But there's some ways that you could actually mitigate even further to where basically you only fail 1 out of every 6 rolls, and that's going to be really important for you because a lot of enemies do have access to gas and tox weapons, especially in Hive Secundus. So that's something you have to worry about, and that's something we take into account when we actually create your lists. And speaking of starting rosters, let's start with your very first one. We actually make 2 rosters in this video. One for you who are going to play, for those of you guys who are interested in playing an Archeo-Hunter gang, while the other one is for those who are seeking a Malstrain Light Allegiance. So this is going to be the House Goliath Archeo-Hunter starting roster, is rated at 1,250 credits. Now the reason why I decided to do that is because there's 2 ways you can look at the Underhells campaign. You can either do the rules that they set in the book that came in the box set, which is at 1,250 credits to create your gang, or you could do the one that's from the new Book of Desolation, which sits at 1,000 credits. I decided to do 1,250 just because it's a much higher value. You could do a lot more better things with it. But of course, if you need to, you can just subtract 250 credits out of the starting roster, so that way you can make whatever gang you like. So first of all, you're going to have a Forge Tyrant, who's going to be your leaders, which costs you 255 credits. This guy's got Furnace Plates, and we're giving him a Crumper Rivet Cannon. Now the reason why we're giving this guy this weapon is because, one, it is a heavy weapon, and it's actually quite powerful, if what somewhat short range, but still pretty powerful weapon. But it also gives the Blaze trait as well, which is going to be quite helpful for you to use, because given the visibility rules in this game, if you can set your opponents on fire, it's going to help reveal these guys with the Blaze trait, so that way you can actually shoot at them, and that's the reason why we're giving it to this character as well. Plus, as a heavy weapon, it doesn't require suspension of fire and a move either, so it doesn't have the unwieldy trait, which makes it quite attractive. We're giving the guys a stub gun for a backup weapon, as well as a spud jacket for close combat, just because a lot of close combats could be really prevalent in the Hive Secundus setting, so you might want to have a good close combat weapon to support you. We're giving this guy a respirator to give him +2 to his toughness characteristic for gas and toxin attacks. At the same time, giving him the Vatborn ability with the gene smithing upgrade with dermal hardening for an additional +1 to his toughness. That way, the only way you're failing any gas or toxin tests is once in every 6 rolls, so it makes this guy a little bit more survivable. cool. We're also giving this guy the Commanding Presence skill, so that way he has larger group activation, so you can activate more fighters in your gang. After they give him a Forge Boss, it costs you 235 credits. This guy's also got Furnace Plates, as well as a Grenade Launcher with Frag and Crack Grenades, because the Grenade Launchers are amazing weapons. He's also got a Respirator to help out with those Toxic attacks, as well as a Spud Jacker for a backup weapon in case he gets engaged in close combat. We're also equipping this guy with Photo Goggles, so that way he can see in all visibility conditions, so that way he can fire this Grenade Launcher reliably. He's also got the Vatborn with the Dermal Hardening upgrade for that 5-up toughness and make him a little bit harder to wound in shooting in close combat, but also make him harder to wound with gas and Tox attack weapons. We're also giving this guy Nerves of Steel, so that way if he does get hit, all he has to do is pass a cool test for him to escape pinning. Up next, your second champion is going to be a Goliath Stimmer. It's going to cost 205 credits. This guy's got Furnace Plates, as well as Parrot Pulverizers for maximum close combat effectiveness, as well as a Respirator to help out with toughness tests against gas and toxic attacks. He's also got the Dermal Hardening Vatborn Gene Smithing upgrade for that additional +1 toughness, and we're giving this guy the Nargos skill as well from the Muscle Tree. That way, if your Goliath Stimmer does get hit, they get 3 actions by using this Nargos ability, so you can spend 1 action to get him on his feet again, and another double action to charge and still engage people in close combat. So because in your face is what you want this guy to be at, just wrecking people in close combat. After that, you have 3 Goliath Bruisers. The first one's going to cost 150 credits. This guy's got Furnace Plate as well as a combat shotgun with both salvo and shredder rounds, because these are perfect medium to short range weapons. Very, very powerful. He's also got Stub Gun for a backup weapon, as well as a Respirator for those gas and toxic toxin trait attacks. He's also got the Vatborn upgrade with Dermal Hardening, so that way he's got harder to wound, as well at the same time make it a little more survivable against those gas and toxin trait weapons. And you got 2 more Goliath Bruisers. Goliath Bruiser number 2 is going to cost 155 credits. This guy's got a Furnace Plate as well as a Bolt Gun, as well as a Stub Gun for a backup weapon, which is going to definitely need because that Bolt Gun's got a 6-up ammo save. He's also got Vatborn as well as Dermal Hardening, so that way a little more survivable once again, just in case if your opponents decide to use gas and toxin attacks. Now the Bolt Gun's a good medium to long range shooting attack with up to 24 inches. Also got Rapid Fire, Strength 4. The only downside, of course, is the high ammo roll, which is why the guy's got a Stub Gun for a backup weapon, just in case. Goliath Bruiser number 3 is going to cost 110 credits. This guy's got Furnace Plates as well as a Stub Cannon, another good short to medium range attack with Strength 5, so amazing there. He's also got a Stub Gun for a backup weapon as well as a Respirator, as well as a Vatborn Gene Smithing upgrade with Dermal Hardening, so that way it makes it a little bit more survivable against attacks, as well as from gas and toxin trait weapons. Up next, we're going to have the Tess Arkup, who's the Hive Dramatis Personae Hive Scummer, who costs 90 credits. This character's got a Furnace Plate as well as a Storm Welder. They also got the Clamber skill, so that way they treat vertical climbs as normal distance, as well as sprints, so they can move up to 3 times in wind allowance. They also got the Wired Special Rule, so that way they can reroll failed initiative tests, as well as Goliath Forgeborn. Now, if you're thinking about getting Forgeborn and you want to use a Storm Welder, but you're afraid of losing your fighters, I suggest Tess Arkup. She's actually a really good substitute for that, because she only costs a fraction of the cost, and if you lose her, no biggie, you can just rehire her later on in the campaign. So that's the nice thing about this character. And then last we have a Rogue Doc for 50 credits. It's got a Last Pistol, Medicae Kit, Medicae skill, as well as Patch Up. The Rogue Docs are worth their weight in gold, and considering how difficult it's going to be for you to recruit fighters, and if you lose anybody during the course of the campaign, between phases anyways, until you wait to the down phase and then you can resupply, Rogue Docs can make sure that anybody suffers any critical injuries, they can patch them back up and get them back into the fight again. Now, because you are an Archeo-Hunter Allegiance, that means you get access to the Abyssal Ferryman team, so you're going to have a Survivor Enclave Abyssal Ferryman team, so that way you got access to the Second Chance special rule, which basically reads that once per cycle, you can perform a medical escort mission for free. This includes someone who suffered from a memorable death roll as well. So like I said, very difficult for you to resupply your fighters and to reconstitute your fighters in case you lose anybody, so recruiting people can be very difficult in this campaign setting. So having the second option to do another medical escort mission, very, very vital, very important for you, especially if anybody rolls up a memorable death. You can actually bring that guy back from the dead, so that's actually kind of a nice thing to actually include for your gang. So for your Ferryman Skipper, you're choosing the stats with 4-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill, 3+ skill, 3 strength, 4 toughness, 2 wounds, 3 initiative, 2 attacks, 7 leadership, 6 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 5 intelligence. This guy's going to be a long-range shooter with mesh armor, as well as an armored undersuit for 4 armor save. This guy's got a Crute long rifle, so that way they can engage at long distances, as well as fight in close combat. They got photo goggles to see in all visibility conditions, as well as a respirator for gas and tox attacks. They got a grapnel launcher, as well as drop legs, so that they can move up and down vertical environments very rapidly, as well as a fast shot ability, so that way they can fire twice. So these guys are going to be your long-range shooters in your gang, while your rest of your Goliath fighters are more the close-in assault type of fighters. Your Ferryman Rig Hand is going to have 3-inch wound allowance, 4 plus weapon skill, ballistic skill, 4 strength and 4 toughness, 2 wounds, 5 initiative, 2 attacks, 8 leadership, 5 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 7 intelligence. This guy's got flak armor for a 6 up armor save, as well as a long rifle with infra sight, so that way they can shoot up to 36 inches away. Sorry, 48 inches away with that long rifle, and do it in all visibility conditions. They got a stub gun with dum-dum rounds for strength, for shooting attack, for close combat, as well as a backup weapon, as well as fast shots, so that we can fire the weapons twice. And so another long-range shooter for your gang. And lastly, of course, you have your Ferryman Steersman's got a stub gun as well as the fast shot skill, so they can fire the weapons on their vehicle twice. They're driving a custom rig with tracked locomotion, so that way you could don't have to worry about dangerous terrain too much. You got a crash cage as well as escape hatches to protect your crew as well as your passengers. A small transport cage to protect your passengers as you cross the battlefield, as well as a redundant drive system to protect your drive system in case it takes a non-glancing hit. Tire claws to increase your handling by 1. Natural burner to put your back up to the normal 7-inch moon allowance for your custom rig, as well as grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades, because grenade launchers are absolutely powerful. Alright, so up next is your Malstrain Allegiance starting roster. So your Malstrain Allegiance roster as well as your Archeo-Hunter roster are going to be exactly the same, because both are designed to do exactly the same thing, which is to prevent your enemies in close to medium range with some powerful shooting attacks, some decent close combat, as well as having some ability to put the hurt on your opponent really well. So you get exactly the same thing with your Forge Tyrant as well as your Forge Boss. They're going to be equipped exactly the same way as list number 1. The same thing applies, of course, to your Goliath Stimmer as well as your Goliath Bruiser number 1. It's going to be equipped exactly the same way as your Bruisers as well as your Goliath Stimmer from the Archeo-Hunter list. And you have exactly the same loadout for Goliath Bruiser number 2 as well as Goliath Bruiser number 3 with their stub cannon as well as bolt gun respectively. At the same time, you're going to have Tess Arca, because she's an amazing 90 credit storm wielding type of fighter who's going to be perfect for your gang, as well as a Rogue Doc to patch up any wounded fires that you may occur over the course of your campaign. Now, for the main difference on this one, you get 400 credits added to your roster for mounted vehicles as well, fighters, vehicles, as well as mounted condition fighters. So to do that, we're giving you 2 Goliath Rogue Thugs. Rogue Thug number 1 is going to cost you 195 credits. Equipped with the stub gun, is also mounted on a Mauler, a Goliath Mauler. He's also got twin-linked bolters as well. And then, of course, Goliath Rogue Thug number 2 is going to cost you 205 credits. This guy's also packing a stub gun, is also mounted on a Goliath Mauler as well, with twin-linked grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades. So these guys are going to be your vehicle-mounted fighters that can basically pursue down enemies, shoot at high-value targets, as well as run people over, because that's what Goliath Road Maulers do best. Now, regardless of your situation, your campaign development for both gangs will be exactly the same thing. The first thing you want to do, of course, is mitigate the visibility conditions of the game. My suggestion to you is to go with flares, especially for House Goliath guys, because they're both cheap and they're also effective for getting visibility. They only cost 20 credits a piece as well, and you can throw this weapon 3 times your strength, so you're throwing at 12 inches in most cases, and then lighting up everything within 3 inches of that point. So it'd be a great way for you to open fire, so that way you can kind of get around the rules of visibility conditions, because then you can just throw your flares, light the darkness, do it that way. Now, if you want to, you could also save up your credits to get photo goggles as well as infra sights for your longer range shooters if you need to. And my suggestion to you is to basically try to save your credits as much as possible. Like I said, for the ability for you to buy things in terms of trading posts as well as recruiting new fighters is really during the down phases of each campaign. So my suggestion to you would be to budget your credits over the course of your campaign phase, and then spend it in combination with your down phase. So that way you could actually get better fighters, better equipment, that sort of thing, if you need to, instead of trying to parcel it out throughout the course of a campaign. That's just my recommendation. My idea also is that you want to go for more of an elite gang over a numerous gang. Try to max out your gang up to 10 fighters total is what you want to do, because in most cases that's the most fighters you can take in a scenario anyways. Just make sure that they're fully equipped with everything they need: visibility, condition type of gear, survivability type gear, good weapons for shooting, as well as excellent close combat, and then you'll be good to go. So there you guys have it. That's how we go about building your guys' House Goliath gang for your first campaign of Necromunda Hive Secundus. The Underhells Campaign offers a brand new environment and also sets up various challenges for brand new players as well. It's going to be very, very interesting to see exactly how people actually stack up. Things like these environmental effects like insanity conditions as well as visibility conditions, plus you also have the roaming horrors you got to worry about as well. Makes this game very interesting. I'm really excited to see exactly what people come up with as well. And like I said, close quarters battle, CQB is could be your friend in this campaign setting. Don't try to rely too much on long range shooting, try to do more for close to medium range shooting, as well as engagements, and you'll pretty much be okay with this. And because new information is dropping all the time for about Necromunda Hive Secundus, keep a lookout for this channel for all the new updates regarding that campaign setting. So that's good for those of you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.